Hey, what's up guys, Totallydubbed here, and today I'm doing a video review on the Echobox Finder X1 earphones. So first of all, I'd like to thank Echobox for actually sending these out for review. After wanting to review these since about November or so, it's great that I actually finally got them and I'm able to review them. Now, I wasn't really aware about who these brand were or what they were doing, and until I googled them, I found an Indiegogo page about them, and they basically reached their funding and were able to make these earphones. Now, they can be found for around $200 on Echobox's website. Unfortunately, I didn't find any other source of where you could buy them from, at least in the UK. And therefore, you have to bear in mind that $200 is around £140 with the current exchange rate, and that does not include import or custom fees. So do bear that in mind when purchasing these, and it therefore might be kind of limiting their audience to the US only. But with a startup company, what else can you expect than starting in one territory and then moving forwards in the future? So what do you get in the box? So in this slightly nicely looking box, you got a quite good plethora of things included. You got the earphones themselves, and on there I've got small ear tips. Now I'll explain why I got small ear tips despite using medium ear tips normally. And I've got a set of black filters, and I'll get into that in just a second because normally you get grey filters which are included by standard on there. Now you also get a set of red filters and the grey filters which I removed from the earphones themselves, which again I'll talk about in just a second. You've got a set of large tips and medium tips as well. Here are the medium tips over here. You've got dual flange and triple flange silicone tips as well. And you've got a set of small and medium T400 comply tips, which is fantastic to have included in the packaging. Finally, you've got a manual. Now, normally I don't go into the packaging or the manual, but I'm going to in this case because there's two things I noticed. First of all, the packaging. Now, you're able to see over here that there's quite a big mark around the filters, and that's because I had to get my knife, yes, this is a crambit, in order to get the filters out. Now, I might be stupid, but there's no other way I found to actually get the filters out without actually poking them through. And in other words, I had to just carefully put my knife on the side and then get the filters out. This is really annoying because obviously if you don't do this correctly, then you might damage the filters. I didn't damage them, but I'm just trying to say that if you had to get them out somehow, then that was the way that you could damage them. On top of that, when it came to the actual manual, it was quite interesting because the filter description was not exactly what I had heard. Now, over here it will say that essentially the white filters or the grey filters that I installed are actually offering a warmer sound, whereas in my experience I found the black filters offer the warmer sound, whereas the yellow ones produce a more fatiguing, more treble orientated sound. And both myself and the manual can both agree that the red filters produced a brighter sound. According to Echobox, when they emailed me, they actually said the red ones are actually accustomed for people who have hearing loss or sort of have problems with certain hearing certain frequencies and therefore need that extra boost in that treble. So normally I don't think anyone's going to use the red filters. So in my experience, the red filters were not something I would ever use. The grey or white filters were ones that were more treble orientated, and the black filters were the least fatiguing but still fatiguing out of all the three filters and produced the most balanced sound. So my sound comparisons are, and my mentions about sound are going to be based on the black filter, which are the most balanced sound, at least with the pair that I received. Now let's go on with the build quality. So the earphones are terminated by a straight gold-plated 3.5mm jack. I would have preferred to see a right-angle jack over here in terms of longevity, but either way, it's a straight jack. Now the cable itself is very nice. It does get tangled every now and then, but it's not such a big deal because I've seen other cables get tangled much more easier. The cable themselves doesn't produce that much microphonics, aka cable noise. However, it can be slightly reduced when the earphones are worn over the ear, so they can be worn both over the ear and straight down. As we move up the cable, you've got the cable kinch, which is very nice to use, and you've got a very nice inclusion of a left and right indicator. Now, it's something that I really love in certain earphone earphones that are produced by certain manufacturers, that you've got a visual representation of what's left and right. Now you might not be able to see the right and left inclusion on the earphones themselves because they're quite hard to see, but you might hopefully able to see via my camera that there is a black sort of inlet over here for the cable, whilst having a brownish red inlet on this side, which denotes the right earphone. So this is very subtle. It's not in your face indicator, but it's a very nice little inclusion to have, and I love the fact that Echobox have actually thought about this. Now in terms of the actual earphones themselves, they're really well built, and despite being made out of titanium, which is what the material is of the earphones and supposedly can withstand a car driving over them, I found them to be really lightweight and fantastically built. Not only that, their design is beautiful to look at, and I really love looking at them in terms of having them in my ear. So I really love what the fact that Echobox have done here. Now the filters can be changed by simply just taking the filter and just turning them where they just basically unscrew, and you can have the filters come out very easily. I love the fact that you can have the filters work so easily like this. It's a great inclusion and does remind me of my old Phonec Audio PFE 232s, which I absolutely adore in terms of universal earphones. So that's really fantastic to have. Now I should mention the comfort. Now the comfort of the earphones is fantastic. They're really lightweight earphones, they sit in your ears really well, and you hardly ever notice them. It's actually an earphone that I rated 10 out of 10 for its comfort, just because it's just so well designed. Now I should mention, in terms of the comfort, and this also will link into the sound quality, is the tips. Now the tips, I have small tips included. Now normally I always have a medium set of tips when I review any earphone, just because medium set of tips always seem to fit well with me and provide me the best isolation and sound quality. Obviously tips and tip rolling is very important when it comes to any sort of in-ear earphone, and in this case I found myself having to use the small ear tips, because with the medium tips I had zero bass. And I'd like to thank Sony from In-Ear Space for actually saying, hey, have you tried the small tips? And you know, it didn't occur to me that, yeah, okay, the small tips are not something I normally use, but hey, let me try them, because I had literally zero bass quantity or quality with the medium tips, whereas with the small tips I did have them. So it was very intriguing for me to hear that, and especially come across that, because it's not something I would normally do. But with the small tips, they actually worked out better for me. So do bear that in mind, and the reason I'm mentioning this in the comfort sort of section is because people with small ear canals, and I would consider myself having medium ear canals, might have a problem wearing these earphones unless you have even smaller tips, or maybe if you use the Comply small T400 tips included, then you might have a better seal and better experience. So overall the comfort is very good. Isolation is decent. It could be better. That's just because of the low profile of these earphones. They don't passively block that much noise, but they're decent for what they are, and they're, as I said, the microphonics are good, but could be a little bit better. But if you want to reduce that, you can wear them over the ear. Now let's move on to the sound quality. Now the sound quality of the earphones is reasonably good, but quite intriguing. Now I found the earphones to be on the whole to be a little bit fatiguing to hear. No matter what filter I use, I felt that the earphones were fatiguing in comparison to other earphones I have. For example, the Dunu Titan ones, which I have just over here, I felt less fatiguing to hear than the Echobox Finder X1. Now in terms of the lows, I felt the sub bass was really well extended. It could have been just a slight better in terms of its refinement, but the extension was really good in the sub bass region. Now the mid bass had a little less impact, and just felt that it could have done with a little bit more, shall I say, meat and hit to it and slam to it. So the mid bass was just a little bit lacking in my opinion, both in terms of quantity and quality, but the quality was definitely better than the quantity side of the mid bass. Now the mids were well presented. I did find them to be a little bit veiled, which was kind of weird to hear, but overall the mids sounded quite well and were reasonably well forward, especially in comparison to something which was a bit more V-shaped like the Titan ones, but the mids were well presented. I do feel that the mids could have been improved via the soundstage. If the soundstage was a little bit more open, a little bit wider, then the mids I think would have had a bit more room to breathe and therefore produce a better sound. Now the highs were a little bit rolled off. They did sound nice, but they were a bit rolled off. And despite having a sibilant sort of sound and shall I say, overly sibilant sound. I felt that the Finder X1 did okay, but not great in the highs. As I said, the soundstage could have been improved. I would have really liked a bit more width and depth to the earphones, which I think would have positively affected the earphones in all the sound frequency traits. So overall, I think the sound quality could have been improved, but as a first try, I think the Echobox Finder X1 is a great earphone to come to the market. Now, its price is £140. That's without import and with import fees and everything like that. Personally, I would prefer to choose something like the Titan 1 or even the Titan 5s, which I recently reviewed, because they produce a better overall sound. But given if you like something a bit more mid-centric or a little bit more sibilant, I don't know why you'd prefer something, then the Finder X1 is a great alternative to the market. So I would definitely suggest them. It's a little bit more expensive than I would like to spend on them, but still, on the whole, it's a good first try. I'll definitely suggest you guys to check out my full written review in my website, and link in the description below, and definitely do like, favorite, share, and subscribe for more videos. Alright guys, I've been Totally Dubbed. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video. Take care and goodbye.